Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to another episode of the OCast. In this episode here, we're going to hit a couple key points on this past Saturday of college football, where we talk about Colorado versus Colorado State, UGA, my back-to-back defending champion UGA Bulldogs, and then I'm going to give a couple predictions on some of the big-time matchups for next week. You don't want to miss this. Now, Colorado is definitely the face of college football, and it's no surprise to me. Deion Sanders did it in Jackson State at an HBCU, so I absolutely knew he was going to duplicate the same thing at a PWI because he's that guy. I wasn't disappointed that he left. I believe it's important that we also show that we can flourish anywhere with that and that we're not just flukes because sometimes they think that, hey, it's cute that we can do it over there, but you can't do it over here with us, the big guys or the big dogs. And he's definitely proven that it's nothing, and Shedeur is absolutely proven that as well. But Colorado, the team is absolutely doing great. But first things first is they squeaked out the win. But let's talk about Travis Hunter. Unfortunately, he got hurt in about early in the game. Let's just say that. And to my opinion, it was a cheap shot. Brumman should have been ejected. Came back in the game a little bit later, but I guess he just couldn't go. He was taken to a local hospital. After the game in Deion Sanders, Coach Prime's post press conference, he did say that he already knows that Travis is going to have to miss several weeks, and he already knows that it's going to be a bit of a task to kind of slow the young man down to try to keep him from rushing back. Obviously, that's why he has a D on his jersey. He's a dog, and a young man like that who absolutely wants to keep going with the momentum that he's built in these first 2 weeks. I can understand why he would want to rush back, but definitely it's great that he has somebody like Coach Prime that's going to protect him from himself. But with Travis Hunter being out, this gave Shedeur a chance to show why he is absolutely a Heisman candidate, and he is the top Heisman candidate. No shade to his teammate, but in my opinion, Shedeur had his Heisman moment. He struggled at the beginning of the game. He had a pick in his first drive, but that was a knucklehead throw in my opinion, which was uncharacteristic. He threw it into double, triple coverage. And honestly, that I think that really set off Colorado State. It really gave that entire team momentum. No, they didn't get a touchdown directly after that turnover. They got a field goal, but I think that turnover really set a tone for their entire team to make them feel like they can compete and that they're here to win this game, not just here to make it competitive. So that Colorado State pass rush was really on Shedeur's head. That offensive line has already been something of a question for Coach Prime. He constantly says in interviews he thinks that's the last key area on the team that he needs to recruit and get his guys in there. He needs to get the Hogs in the line to win championships. And they struggled last night. The young man, number 8, I believe Kamara, he was killing them. But at the same time, Kamara ended up killing his own team as well with some very key bonehead penalties. Not just him. I don't want to just harp on the one young man. The entire Colorado State team played a sloppy game, and honestly, that's why they ended the league. That's why they lost. They played well enough to win the game. If their quarterback didn't throw 3 interceptions, he would be a legend, and Colorado definitely would have got the win. They led in every major category. They led in passing, they led in rushing, they led in time of possession, but 16 penalties for 176 yards and 4 turnovers. Like I said, 3 interceptions and a fumble loss. Yeah, that'll do it. You're not going to win. But the fact that Shedeur couldn't keep a clean pocket and he wasn't able to stay comfortable back there is what kept the game so close. Will allow Colorado State to stay in the lead for a lot of the game. But at the end of the third quarter, Shedeur really started to catch a rhythm. He started to catch a vibe. His numbers weren't bad, even though you would think he wasn't having a great game because he finished for 38 for 47, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns. But that one pick was, like I said, uncharacteristic. But the major key point of his performance was that 2-minute drive. Definitely. Backed all the way back to his own 2-yard line. He took his team 98 yards with two more key flag penalties because Colorado had 10 flags of their own, not for as many yards, but they weren't as clean as well. In that 2-minute drive, they had 2 false starts, but Shedeur stayed calm. Like this was the moment he was born for. Like this was it. And he threw a dart directly after the second false start by his tight end to Horn Jr. This kid just is box office. He's big time. Like it's just it's a movie being that we're seeing in the making what he and his father are doing. Then of course they still had to take it into overtime, but in my opinion, with the look on Colorado State's coach's face after they forced that tie, to me that showed that game was over. I knew that Colorado was going to tough it out and really strong arm it out in the extra possessions of overtime. I can't say quarter because, of course, college football has its different setting rules for OT, but Colorado really squeaked out a game. It wasn't clean, but I'm sure that they'll take it. A W is a W, and you got to take it however you can get it. But now let's move on to, like speaking of a W is a W, UGA. To my opinion, we're not that great this year. That win wasn't dominant per se to my liking. I don't think that UGA fans as well as myself should be very confident this year that we're going to three-peat. It's not that we're not capable of doing it. Carson Beck isn't incompetent. He's not a bad player, but he's not, in my opinion, a dynamic quarterback by any means. I don't want to call him a game manager, but he is a game manager. That means he's going to really depend on the success of our running game and our defense. Our defense is still elite. We're still, in my opinion, the best defense in the SEC. We don't have the names this year. We don't necessarily have the big-time top 5 guaranteed pick at nose or in the inside like we've had in the past couple of years with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter. We don't necessarily have the outside pass rusher or the inside backer or the big time. Of course, it's just keep going on, etc. We're basically defense U at this point. But as a unit, those guys still work very well. Even though they allow Spencer Rattler is a great quarterback, and that brings me to my next statement: is that Carson with Carson Beck just being a game manager, I think that once we get to the SEC championship, that's really the first time I think we'll be tested by actually like a really good quarterback, because I believe LSU is going to make it out of the other side of the SEC. I really think that LSU is going to run the table. They just had a bad opening night. But they're going to run the table. I think Jaden Daniels is a great quarterback. I've liked him since he was at Arizona State under Herm Edwards. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. He's definitely going to this is going to be a Heisman finalist type season for him. And I think once we get to the SEC championship game, and when we play LSU, that'll be a very big, tough matchup for us, because how are we going to, if that elite defense isn't able to come to play, isn't able to stop him, isn't able to keep him in check, then I don't think that our offense is going to be able to match them in points. Because like I said, I don't think Carson Beck is he's going to lose the game, but he's not going to win the game for us. And those other pieces, in key, the run game and the defense have to be on point for us to win when we have him. And especially Brock Bowers definitely has to get as many touches as possible. With that being said, now to my expectations for the rest of the season. I expect us to still make it to the SEC championship game, even though we're not incredibly great. I don't see us having any trouble with anybody in our schedule. Not any scares at all. Maybe a scare with Auburn, or maybe with Ole Miss, but we should be fine. As far as next week is a couple key games. There's going to be Ohio State is playing against Notre Dame. You have Florida State going to play Clemson. And then you also have, of course, the biggest game, Colorado going to Oregon. Let's start with, I have Ohio State losing to Notre Dame. I don't think that Ohio State is that great this year. They're not that impressive. I mean, they're usually dominant. They usually have a great quarterback, a dominant quarterback, and they don't have that this year. So I believe that they're probably losing Notre Dame, but they'll most likely beat Michigan. So at the end of the season, it'll be a big cluster with the Big Ten as usual. Um, but I think that Florida State is going to lose to Clemson. I think Clemson is ready to redeem themselves after an embarrassing loss on to Duke. And what better way than to beat the number 3 team in the country at home? I don't really think that Florida State is that great. Now, if they do beat Clemson, that's still just not going to make me an automatic believer. They still got a little bit more to prove to me. Colorado versus Oregon. I like Colorado. Like I said, I think Shedeur may have had his Heisman moment against Colorado State, and I think that they're going to continue to win. I think that Shedeur is going to continue to shine, and they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to beat Oregon. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Of course, they're going to be without Travis Hunter, but they're going to have plenty of time to get their game plan together and to get that defense up to par and to realize their new roles and to get accustomed to not playing with their best player. And Shedeur is definitely going to step up because he's absolutely rising, and he's definitely rising to the occasion in every chance that he gets. Thank you. This has been another great episode of the OCast. I appreciate you for sticking with me the entire time. If you did stick with me the entire time, let me know by sharing with me your favorite college football team in the comments. Let me know.